Okay, so this afternoon we want to look at how to import a module or modules in Python 3. Now, a module, as we are going to see, is just a file. It's a text file which contains functions which you have created and also some variables which you have created, which is basically data. So a module can contain functions, it can also contain data. And sometimes when you create these things, what you want to do is, depending on what kind of job you're doing or what kind of work you're doing, when you create these modules, you want to keep them nicely in a particular file so that you don't have to create them over and over again. Are we clear? Is my explanation clear? Yes. So basically, this is a way of you storing your functions. This is a way of storing your data. For example, there is a lot of data we use in physics. For example, the speed of light, c. So you would want to store that in a certain file so that you can easily access the value of the speed of light. There is also other things like, for example, the value of pi. You probably want to store that somewhere because you use the value of pi in so many places. So you would want these things stored in a particular file, and that is what we are going to look at. That's what you're going to be looking at, because this is going to be something which is very important. So among our learning objectives, there are a few of them, but they're very, very important. Basically, all of them are concerned with how do you access these modules. And of course, there's a module which you're going to be looking at, which is very important, which is the math module. So the first thing we're going to look at is, among the objectives, is how do you access an entire module? How do you access everything which is contained in a module? Now, this thing of accessing everything, whether it's the variables or the functions that are contained in a module, this is what is called importing a module. Okay, so if you do not import a module, you cannot have access to the data and also to the functions which are contained in that module. So for the first thing you have to do, for you to use a particular module, as you are going to see, Python has got a lot of modules or packages. You need to import this module. Are we clear? That's the first thing you need to do. You need to be able to import this module. The other thing is, you can actually import specific functions from a module. So we'll see how you can do this. The other thing is, you can actually import a module as something else. The reason why this is necessary to import a function, you can import a function from a module as an alias. So basically, you can import a function as something else. Maybe the name of the function is very long, so you want to give it a short name, and that's what an alias is. Or you can import a module as an alias. Sometimes some of these functions modules have got very long names, so you want to import that particular module as something else. There are usually some nicknames which we use by convention. And also, we're going to see how you can import everything which is in the module using an asterisk. So the first thing is, what do we mean by a module? So like I've said, a module is just a file, and this file contains data or it contains functions which you need. So a module it's a collection of useful computer code and functions. So this computer code and functions, it can be, like I've said, the value for the speed of light in a vacuum, which is c, or maybe some refractive index, or there are other things which we need, for example, Newton's gravitational constant, or maybe you're talking about the acceleration due to gravity on Earth. Those are values, those are useful data. So all that data can actually be stored in a module. And apart from that, you can also actually store functions. So you can define functions. Then after you define the functions, you can actually state how these functions are supposed to work, and you store them in a module. How do we know that you're dealing with a module? Basically, modules have got an extension .py. So, and it's not just modules, unfortunately, which have got the extension .py. Usually it turns out that almost every file which is used in Python has got this extension .py. So you might have a file, but it doesn't. But it has got the extension .py, but it might be storing something else. So usually, the convention is that everything which has to do with Python, whether it's a Python program, a normal Python program, or a file which contains other functions which you need in Python, or maybe some other things. Usually most things in Python have got this, they end with this .py, showing you that this is actually a Python thing. So, are we clear? On what a module is and how a module is stored. So you have to use a file name which ends with .py. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is, how do you import a module? That's what we want to look at. So basically there are a number of ways in which you can do this. How you can import a module. This can be done in a number of ways. And basically you can just say, there are basically about, like I've shown, you can say here, you can say import, but for you to import a module, there's a keyword you use called import here. So you can say import, then you state the name of the module you want to import. So these modules basically have got names, okay? So you say import, then the name of the module you want to import, like that. So this module is the name of the module you want to import. But when you're doing this import, when you're importing this module, this module name, you do not include the .py. As much as the file itself, the module file itself has got the extension .py. When you import the module, as you're going to see, you do not include the .py. So you can just do that, import, then some name of the module. Then after you have done that, after you import a module, like with import, like this, then you will be able to access the functions and the variables which are contained in that module as follows. So you start with typing the name of the module, then you put a dot, then the name of the function, then followed by these parentheses. So these brackets, because it's a function, you might put something there or you might not put something there. If, on the other hand, if you're trying to access a variable, for example, the value of pi or the speed of light, you say module, the name of the module which you're importing, then you put a dot, then the name of that variable, like that. So basically, this is, in a nutshell, this is how you do an import, how you import an entire module. That's the first thing. So we're looking at how do you import the whole module. So you just say import, then the name of the module, then after the name of the module, after you import the name, then you can access that particular module. There's a module which we're going to be working with. In this case, that is what's referred to as the math module. Now, this math module contains a variety of mathematical functions and also some data like the value for pi. And it comes with Python already. So Python out of the box comes with a bunch of these modules or functions and everything else, a lot of things. So like I have shown here, if we want to import a module, what you're going to do is we're going to type import. So this tells Python that you're about to import a module, then followed by the name of the module which you want to import. Are we clear? So the module we want to import is what's referred to as a math module. So how are we going to do that? So we start here. You type import, then followed by the name of the module which you want to import. Like that. So it runs, no problems. Then of course, you can have a look at what's contained in this math module after you import it. So you're going to say print, the print function, then inside the print function, you use this function dir or directory. Then you give this function dir, you give it the name of the module whose things you want to have a look at. So in this case, when you run this is what we end up having. So we end up having a list. It prints out a list. And in this list, you can see there's a bunch of stuff in there. But of course, you can, as I think you can see here, there's this ACOS or ACCOS, ACCOS, arcsine, hyperbolic arcsine, the arctangent, and a bunch of other functions here. Then there's cosine here, there's cos, the hyperbolic cosine, there's a function called degrees, there's distance, there's e, the value for e, there's a function called exponent here, there's a function called factorial here, there's a function called flow, there's also another function, which one is that? Is square, no, not this one, something here, the log function, log 10 function, there's pi here, there's something called power here, then this is a product, this is a function called radians, there's a function called remainder here, there's a function called sine, there's a function called square root, tan, and of course tau, like that. So basically this second step is telling us that we have succeeded in importing this math module. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Of course, there are other things you can do. For example, you can get help on a description of what these particular functions do. So, for example, here. So once you import a module, if you need more help on what all these functions do here, you can always get help. Help is not very far away, and that is, you can do that using the help function. So you can just say help math. If you do help math like this, then you run it, then now you're going to get a more complete description on what these things do. For example, here the name of the module you've imported is math. Then of course there is a lot of stuff, so a bunch of stuff you can read. For example, this function arc cos, what does it do? It says return the arc cosine measured in radians of x. So you can see all those functions we're looking at up there. Now there's a description of what each of those functions does. Here you're given a description. The cosine, cos x, return the cosine of x measured in radians. Here, distance, dist, pq, return the Euclidean distance between 2 points p and q. And of course, these 2 points p and q can be given as a tuple. So you can, if you've got a tuple, then you give those points there, then of course it's going to work them out. This other one function here, the exponent, return e raised to the power of x. So e raised to the power of x, that's what an exponent is there. So you now have an explanation of what many of these functions do. Factorial x, find the x factorial, that's what it does there. So there is a bunch of things you can actually, if you are more interested on how to get help, then you're going to do that. This other function, hypotenuse, here, hypotenuse, it gives you what the hypotenuse is by working out the Pythagoras thing, by using the Pythagoras expression. So basically, what else? Logarithm here, return the logarithm of x to the given base. What else? Power xy, return x to the power y. So basically that's what you have there. Radians x, convert an angle x from degrees to radians. Remainder, this function, remainder xy, difference between x and y and the closest multiplier of y. Basically it gives you a remainder when you divide x and y. Then sine x here, return the sine of x. This other one here, square root x, return the square root of x. Tan x, return the tangent of x measured in radians. And of course, down here you can see there is what is referred to as data. And what data are we talking about? There's a value for e equals to 2.718, like that, the whole number. There is also some other numbers, something called not a number, something called infinity. But of course, maybe of interest to you, it would be this one here, pi. Pi is 3.114159 and all the way up to that. So basically, that's the end of the file. So you can see this module which we have imported, this module called math, contains some constants like pi and e, but it also contains a bunch of interesting mathematical functions which you might need to use. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these functions which are already in this module, you don't have to go and create these functions yourself. That's the first thing about the module. If there is a module out there which already contains a function which does a task which you want to do, then the thing you should do is just go and import that module. Don't go and try to recreate things which have already been created. Okay? So, yeah. So next thing is, how are we going to now make use of this math module which you've imported? For example, we have imported math. We know that. So if we want to access the value pi, which we have imported in the math module, we want to access this value pi here. For us to access this value pi, we need to start with the name of the module, the name of the module which contains this variable, which defines this variable pi. And that module is math. And we have imported it. So we say math.pi. When you do math.pi, this is what I get. I access the value of pi from the math module. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
If I just say pi without the name of the module, I get a mistake. I get an error. I'll be told name pi is not defined. The computer will tell me this variable pi, I have not created a variable called pi, and I haven't done that. But I know that this variable pi is somewhere in a file on this computer. The name of that file is the math.py. Are we clear? So if you want to access a value which is stored somewhere on the computer in a file, you start with the name of the file, then you put a dot, then the name of the value you want to access. Similarly, if I want to access this value here, E. So we have seen that if you just say E, or like I did pi, you're going to get an error. So I'll start with the name of the module which contains this value, then the data or the value I want to access. So I'll start with the name of the module, which is math, then I put a dot, then E, like that. When I do that, this is what I get. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
You are not restricted to accessing only variables. You can also get some of these functions. You can access some of the functions. For example, there is a function called square root. If you still remember, we looked at it a bit. There's a function called square root. Here, square root, sqrt, returns the square root of x. So this function square root gives you the square root of a number. We give it. But for us to access this function square root, this function square root lives in the math module. So it's in the math module. So I start with the name of the module, math dot, then followed by the name of the function, square root, then I give it a value whose square root I want to find. When I run this is what I get. I get 5 as the square root. If I try to do the same thing without the name of the module, I just say square root 25, then Python is going to complain and it's going to tell you that this function, I've not found it. The reason why it hasn't been found is because you have not told Python where this function is. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's very, very important that you mention the module where the function is, where the function is found. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we also try to import another function. We try to access another function called power. Now for us to access this function power, we're going to say math, which is the name of the module, dot, you put a dot, then the function you want to access, which is the power function, POW. Now the power function basically is going, what you're trying to do here, we're trying to say 5 raised to the power 3. So there's a 5, which is the base, then there's a 3, which is the exponent. So 5 raised to the power 3, that's going to give us 125, which is this here. Of course, the other thing is you could try to ask for help on a specific function. How does a specific function work? So here, you could ask for help on a specific function and how it works. So here I was saying ask for help on power function, on power for function in math module. So you apart from just asking for general help on what a module has and everything is, you can ask for specific help on a particular function. What does this particular function do? Are we clear? And how do you do that? You say help power help math.power. When you do this, help math.power, then you run it, you just get help specifically on this power function. Return x raised to the power y, like that. X to the power of y. If you don't understand what this is. So there's an explanation there. So basically, yeah, that's what, let me do this. Let me move this up a bit. Like that. Then we do this. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is this particular function inside this math module. There is a power function. Okay. So basically, so what you have seen here is we have seen how you can import an entire module. So for you to import an entire module, you just say import followed by the name of the module, import math. This is going to do the import. Then if you want to see what kind of things your module brings, you run this command print, then inside print dir, then inside dir math, then you're going to get a list. This is a list. You're going to get a list of everything which is in that module. You're going to get a list of the functions. You're also going to get a list of the data which is contained in that particular function. If you need help, get help on the math module. If you need help on a general help on what the module does, get help. So you just say help math. Get help on the math module. So there you get your help. So this bit is going to give you the help. So using the help function. So the help function, apart from giving you help on how to use a function or all these things, it can also give you access to a particular module. Once you have imported a module, then you have had access to certain things. You can access data which is contained in a module like this. So you start with the name of the module, then the variable or the data. In this case, we're accessing pi. If you try to access pi without the name of the module, like in this case, it's going to fail. And also you can access the value for e using math, then .e, then it's going to give you that value. And you have seen that you can actually access functions which are in this particular module. For example, the square root function here. So you start with math, then you put a dot, then the square root, then you get your value for what the square root of 25 is, as 5.0. If you just try to run the function square root 25, it's going to give you a mistake. Here we are showing that you can ask for help on a specific function. For example, you can specify that you need help with a power function, and if you do that, then Python is going to print out the help on how a particular function is used. and what it does. So in that case, after you have seen how the particular function works, then you can use it like that. So that's the first way. That is when you decide to import the whole module. Okay. Another way of doing things is, instead of importing the whole module, you can decide to say you are only going to import specific functions from a module. Instead of getting everything, you can decide to say, I am just going to access, I just need certain functions from a module. That's what you can do. It's possible to do that. So you can decide to import specific functions from a module. Now, how do you do that? So you say from, you start with the keyword from, then after from, you put the name of the module where you want to import from. So you can say from math, import a particular function. Or that is if you want to import a function. Or you can say from a particular module, import a particular variable. Now, if you remember very well, when we tried to just print out the value for pi here, as you can see, when you try to run this, pi that, you see, we got an error here. We got an error for pi. It didn't work because Python said, no, this thing has not been defined. But we can solve this problem by specifically just importing pi. So we can say from math, import pi, and also here we got this error here, square root of 25 or square root of 25. This didn't work when we did this. That didn't work. So such a problem can also be solved by specifically importing a specific function or a specific variable. We'll start with the value for pi. So we can say from, we start with the keyword from, and you can see keywords are green and bold. So you can say from, then followed by the name of the module you want to import from, math, then next import. What do you want to import? You want to import the value of pi. So from math, import pi. Okay, it does that. Now when you type pi, this is what you get. Now you're able to access the value of pi. Are we clear? Is it clear? Hello? Are we clear on what you're doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing is, for example, let's import. Remember, we had this square root function which didn't work. This one. Let's try to import this square root function. So we're going to say, instead of remainder here, we're saying from math, import square root, import square root function from the math module. So we're going to say from math, import not remainder, but I'm going to import square root, because that one didn't work. From math, import square root, and get the square root. Now we're going to say get the square root of 25. Get the square root of 25. Previously this didn't work. So now that we have imported a specific function, in this case square root of 25, like that, when we run this now it works. It gives us 5. The reason why it works is because we specifically imported this square root. Now when you do a specific import from a particular module, then you import a specific function, you don't have to put the name of the module in front of the function or in front of the data. Is that clear? You don't have to put math in front.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you don't have to put math in front when you import a specific function like the way we've done here from math import pi or from math import square root. You don't have to do that. It's just going to be, you can just use the name of the function you've imported like that. Okay. Now, the good thing is, as you can see here, I just imported one value of pi. I imported one function square root, but the good thing is actually you can import more than one function at a time. You can import more than one function at a time. You can also import more than one variable at a time. Or you can import a combination of functions and variables. For example, similarly say from the module, in this case we're dealing with the math module, import, you start with function 1, so you import your first function, then you put a comma, you import your second function, then you put a comma, then you import your third function, then you put a comma, like that. So you can import as many functions as you want. If you're interested in certain functions, you can import them in one line as you want. You can also do something similar. You can actually import variables. You can import more than one variable, like this. From a module, import variable 1, variable 2, and variable 3, and so on. So this is what I'm showing here. So here I'm going to import two variables or two data types, the value for e and the value for tau. So I'll say from math import e and tau. So this is e and tau. So these I know they are in this math module. So I can do that. So that's an import. Then I can say, I can display e. That's a value for e. That's a value for tau. Are we clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You can also import more than one function. For example, here I want to import a factorial function. I want to import a function called cell. I want to import a function called flow. Okay, so I say from math import factorial, then I put a comma, cell, then I put flow, like that. When I do that, fine. We have a good idea of what factorial does. So I say factorial 5. So basically I want to get 5 factorial. 5 factorial, in this case, it's 120. 3 factorial, factorial 3 is 26. Then this other one, this gets the ceiling of 4.7. So the ceiling of a number is basically the integer, because integers are counting numbers, the integer which is next to that number. So when you round off this number to the nearest higher number, what do you get? So here, I think, let me do this. Let me ask for help so that we see what we're talking about. Get help on see function. So when I say, since I've already imported it like this, then I can just say help seal. When I do that, help seal, this is what I get. It says return the ceiling of x as an integer. So basically, what is this? This is the smallest integer greater than or equals to x. So the smallest integer which is greater than 4.7 is 5. So in this case, when I say seal 4.7, the integer which is greater than x, but the smallest one, there are other integers which are greater than x, but the smallest one is 5. So that's what it's going to give me. It gives me 5. Similarly, you can also get help on a function called floor. Now, floor does the opposite of ceiling. So basically, it gives you the the value of the integer, but now it's rounding off the number to the bottom. So in this case, I'll do this. You can get help on floor. Those are the functions which we imported. So after you import a particular function, you can always get help on it. So what is floor? This is the largest integer which is less than or equals to x. So the largest integer, we're talking about 4.5, which is the x. So the largest integer which is less than 4.7 is basically 4. So the floor of 4.7 is just 4. Are we clear? The point here is not exactly how floor and ceiling work. The point is that you can import more than one specific function. That's the point here. You can import factorial, you can import ceiling, you can import ceil, you can import floor. That's the point here. The point is that it's possible for you to import more than one specific function at once. And this is how it's done. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next thing is, if you do not like the name of a function, you can always give a function a nickname. Okay. If you don't like the name of a function, you can always give a function a nickname, and that nickname you're giving a function is what is referred to as an alias. So you can do an import using what's referred to as an alias. So you can give a function, as you are importing a function, that function you're importing, you can give it another name, so that instead of using the name of the function which is given in the module, you probably want to give this function a different name, which is called an alias. An alias is a nickname. And how do you do that? You say from module, which is the module where you're importing a function from, import function as alias. There are certain functions whose names are a bit long, or maybe they're a bit cumbersome for you to type, and maybe that's not what you want. You want something short. For example, there's a function called radians and there's a function called degrees. So instead of typing radians, you don't want to type radians, you want something shorter. You're going to say from math import the name of the function radians as rad. Is this clear? From math import radians as rad. So you are giving this function radian another name, a nickname. The nickname you're giving radian is rad. And now how does rad work? So you can ask for help on how to use rad. So get help on alias, because rad is now an alias rad. Get help on alias rad. So you say help. Of course, there's always one way to get help. You say help, then rad. When you do that, this is what you get. You get help. The help you get is for this function, radians, because rad here is just a nickname for the function radians, which you imported. And what does radians do? Converts angle x from degrees to radians. Now there's an angle whose degrees I think you know, 180 degrees. 180 degrees, if it's converted into radians, gives you pi. I hope you know that. So that's what you're going to use just to demonstrate that this thing actually works. So in this case, we're going to say rad 180 degrees, and when you do this, when you run this, you get the value for pi. So that your angle 180 degrees has been converted by the function radians, which we have imported as rad into radians, and that's the value for pi. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
You can also import other functions like this in this same fashion. For example, there's a function called degrees, but degrees, as you can see, is a bit long. So maybe you want to use something short like this, DEG for degrees. So you can say from math import degrees as deg, like that. And when you do that, fine, you can ask for help on what this alias means. Since you've created an alias, you can ask for help on how to use this alias. You can say help deg, and it will point you to the function degrees, and it will tell you what degrees does. Convert an angle x from radians to degrees. Now there's an angle, of course, we know, which is this one. This is an angle in radians, so we're going to convert this angle in radians. We'll try to convert this angle in radians into degrees. I'll put it there, that whole thing there. Then this is an angle in radians I want to convert into degrees. When I do that, that's what I get. I get back my 180 degrees. Are we clear?
Yes, sir. But I've got a question, sir.
Yes.
When using the alias thing,
alias.
Always use the letters that. Yes. When using the alias, are we always supposed to use the letters that are related to the function in the?
No, you can create your own. You can create your own nickname for a particular function. You can create your own stuff. Yeah, but usually there is certain things which, because you're not the only one using Python, there are certain aliases nicknames which people use. Like in this case for degree, like that. This is just an obvious choice for degree. Or the one we have chosen for rad. It's just the obvious one. You can choose to say ARA, but ARA can mean anything. But if you say rad, anybody who's doing physics, mathematics might have an idea what a rad is. Okay? The point is, when you're creating an alias, this alias should make it easy for you to work. You don't want to type too many things, because as you're trying to type too many things, it's possible that you can make a mistake. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, a function or a particular function is not the only thing you can give an alias to. You can also give an entire module, because sometimes maybe the name of the module is too long. You don't want to type the whole thing. You can give an entire module an alias. The whole module, you can give it an alias. You can give an entire module an alias. And we are going to see how to do this. Since we are working with a math module here, we can give the math module an alias, for example. And how are you going to do that? You're going to say import module. So you start with import, then the name of the module, then you say as alias. So basically the whole module, you are giving it a nickname. Okay, so since I don't want to type math over and over again, it's cumbersome, I just want to give math the alias m. So I'm going to say import math as m. When I do that, now once I do this, when I import math as m, then if I want to access anything from the math module now, instead of typing math, the whole math, I can just use m. I can use the alias m. I can say m.p.py, this should give me access to pi. m.e, this should give me access to the value of e. m.square root of 16, this should give me access to the square root function. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can create a nickname for a specific function. You can create a nickname for a whole module. If the name of the module, some modules are too long. Some modules contain other modules inside. So if a module contains other modules inside, you typing the whole thing over and over will become a problem. So you just want to type this module with another module inside once. Then you give this whole arrangement a nickname. Then you want to work with a nickname. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
There is another way of doing all this thing which is not encouraged, but it's there anyway, of importing a function. If you want to access everything in a function, there's another way of doing things, which, that's why I've put it last, because it's not encouraged. The reason why it's not encouraged is because it does not tell you very much. Once you do this, it doesn't tell you very much about where a particular function or a particular variable is coming from as you are using these particular functions. It doesn't tell you very much. So it's possible for you to import everything in a module. You can say from module import star. From module import star. This from module import star gives you access to all the data. It gives you access to all the functions which are in a particular module. You get access to all the data. You get access to all the functions which are in a particular module. And once you do this, you no longer have to use the name of the module. You can just go straight forward and start using these functions. So that's what you're going to do here. So you're going to say from math import star or asterisk. Once I do that, I can start using, now it will be possible for me to start doing this. Radians 180 degrees, now it works. I get that. A degrees pi, it works. I get sine 0.5 times pi. See, there is nowhere where I imported sine, but now it works. Cos pi, I didn't import the cosine function specifically, but when I did the from math import star, it imports everything from that particular math thing. Cos pi, there, exponent of 1, there. But this is not very good. You need to be as explicit as possible when you're trying to import these things. We need to know which module the particular thing came from and how you're using it, because there might be other functions. There are other functions which have got the same name, maybe coming from somewhere, or which are already working in Python. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any questions on how you import a module? So we have seen how to import the whole module. We have seen how to import specific variables or functions from a module. We have seen how to import a function as an alias. We have seen how to import the whole module as an alias. We have also seen how to import everything from a module using the asterisk. So any questions on how this is done?
No question with me, sir.
Are there other people? Okay, so
No question, sir.
Okay, so if there's no question, the next time we're going to meet, which is Thursday, we're going to look at the math module in detail. What is on offer in the math module? Okay. Then also when we meet on Friday there is something else I want us to look at. There is a module called statistics. So basically, it's a module which you can use to do some basic statistics, basically. Okay. And since you're in a physics class, you might have some numbers. You want to work out what is the mean, what is the standard deviation, what is the variance, and stuff like that. What is the median? So there is a module there are a lot of modules in Python. But what we want to focus on, for example, the math module, as I've chosen it, are only those modules which we can use in our course. Something which you can use in your physics course right away after you learn it. Okay, so on Thursday, when we meet, we're going to look at the math module in a bit more detail. Then on Friday, we are going to look at the statistics module. Then also, I plan to look at how to show you how you can create your own module, because it's possible for you to create your own modules. It's not just modules which come with Python or which other people have made. You yourself can also create a module which you can use yourself. Okay, so basically that's what I hope we can do on Friday. If we don't finish on Friday, then we have to finish up next week. Then after that, we'll move on to other things. All right, we'll stop here. The recorded video is going to be uploaded to YouTube. The PDF for this thing is also going to be uploaded to Moodle, and the link from the YouTube is also going to be put in Moodle. Okay. I'll also send some links for some other videos. But yeah, basically, I've already sent enough material, but let's see what you can cover here. Let's cover this. Since I already sent you links for this particular lesson some weeks back. The reason why I'm sending, sometimes I send you links for things in advance. I want you to have a look so that at least things are not as strange as like you've never seen things. But if you've gone through a particular video I've sent, you will know where you have difficulty and you can concentrate so that you don't have a lot of problems. And it also helps your understanding of things. Okay. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we are going to move full steam ahead because the exam is at the end of the year. The other bit is, I don't know, because we have to, eventually things have to change. So our course is supposed to come to an end very soon, but it can't come to an end because you people still don't know how to program. And it's only when you know how to program when you can properly do the things which you need to do. So basically, yeah. So we'll see how the other, in the middle of, because right now we're getting into term 2. So in the middle of term 2, we might have to switch things around so that we see how we can do other things. Okay. So that's the end for this class. I'll see you on Thursday. The recorded video I will upload to YouTube, and the link I'll post in Moodle. The PDF of this thing, and I think at some point I need to also fix the notebooks. But for now, you can look at the video and the PDF. So the PDF is also going to be put in your Moodle. Okay, so see you on Thursday. Please inform your friends that class has resumed. The holiday is finished. Okay. All right.
All right, sir.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.